Remember the Alinsky tactic. Isolate a target. Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. What's one of those rules? Isolate. Why isolate? Because you make people feel alone. You make them feel alone, under pressure from blue checkmark Twitter. Gosh, the pressure, I gotta come back and I gotta rescind that column talking about documented political donations to left-wing candidates in cities that are going lawless, that are just in total chaos. Cass is like, no, I'm writing another column. So showing you the insanity of cancel culture, ladies and gentlemen, there is a columnist for the Chicago Tribune. He wrote a piece, and I warned you about this. I've been warning you about this for a long time. He wrote a piece about the decaying situation in a lot of American cities as a result of district attorneys getting elected in these inner cities who have a crime is A-OK approach, and we're going to coddle the criminals. The essence of his piece was, hey, there's a lot of money behind this. So he wrote a piece, Joe, we can't, this is like saying hydroxychloroquine on this. We'll definitely be banned now. He wrote a piece, and in that column, he suggested, listen, there's been a lot of George Soros. For those of you who don't know who George Soros is, he's a very wealthy, far left-leaning individual who donates a lot of money to leftist political campaigns and leftist political causes. So this columnist, by the way, that he donates money to leftist political causes is not an area of any controversy. You can look it up yourself. It's a matter of public record. So the columnist said, well, why is George Soros, international businessman, very wealthy guy, trying to get local district attorneys elected who clearly are soft on crime? Like, what benefit does he? He doesn't live in these neighborhoods. Oh, the storm, you can fill in the beginning part of that resulted from this. The local Chicago Tribune or media unions, whatever they are, they want this guy like sanctioned. They're like, shut this guy up. You can't mention. I warned you, whenever you mention George Soros and you're over a target, the left panics and freaks out. Here's the piece in the Chicago Trib. You can see it, by the way, it's in my show notes from yesterday. It's by John Cass. He's the writer. This is a follow-up piece, actually, to the piece he wrote. He says, column, what happened to an America where you could freely speak your mind? So let me go to a few screenshots where he describes what he did and what the reaction was. So first, again, this is the follow-up to his original column where people lost their minds when Cass asked a simple question like, hey, why is a billionaire funding a lot of races for district attorneys who are being soft on crime while these cities are decaying? Pretty fair question, no? From his follow-up piece, he says, last week, with violence spiking around the country, I wrote a column on the growing sense of lawlessness in America's urban areas. In response, the Tribune newspaper union, the Chicago Tribune Guild, which I've repeatedly and politely declined to join, wrote an open letter to management defaming me by falsely accusing him, Joe, get ready, of religious bigotry and fomenting conspiracy theories. This is the left's tactic. Never, ever attack the message, attack the messenger. He goes on. Newspaper management has decided not to engage publicly with the union, so I will. Good for this, Mr. Cass. For right now, let's deal with the facts. He says the July 22nd column in question was titled, Something Grows in the Big Cities Run by Democrats, an Overwhelming Sense of Lawlessness. What did I tell you, folks? When the Democrats have no substance to stand on, like they did with Vernon Jones, or they do with Antifa, they'll attack the messenger and engage in a euphemism game. With Jones, oh, you've been paid off to speak on Trump. With Cass, who brings up the fact that George Soros has there's documented records of George Soros paying money and his groups paying money to political campaigns for left-wing prosecutors who won't prosecute crime. He's accused of religious bigotry. If you're questioning, like, what? What does that have to do with a column on law and order and political donations?
Yeah.
Just like the Ren and Stimpy Land of the Left Socks episode, folks. Where they go, nobody knows. Nobody knows. It has nothing to do with religious bigotry. This is all the Democrats have because they think they've used this attack so often. And this is why I call it the double-barrel middle finger. I'll use this one instead. The double-barrel middle finger approach. This is why you have to be like John Cass and fight back, because the left are cowards. They try the religious bigotry, you're a racist line all the time, and it has nothing to do with any of that, and they think you'll cower. They can't fight us all at once. When you turn around and flip them the double-barreled middle finger and say, you're making that up, you're a total liar, I'm going to stick to the point, you can engage in these ridiculous, absurd, ad hominem attacks, but I'm going to stay double down on Soros's money and non-law and order candidates destroying these inner cities. You do your thing, they back off because they can't fight us all at once. Remember the Alinsky tactic. Isolate a target. Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. What's one of those rules? Isolate. Why isolate? Because you make people feel alone. You make them feel alone under pressure from blue checkmark Twitter. Gosh, the pressure, I gotta come back and I gotta rescind that column talking about documented political donations to left-wing candidates in cities that are going lawless, that are just in total chaos. Cass is like, no, I'm writing another column.
You just heard Dan Bongino.